Hello guys, I am back from another video, and today we're talking about deku was a mercenary. So, I'm not going to tell you what happened last episode. It's because, well, I feel a bit tired. Mostly because I'm currently under the effects of the vaccine. I recently gotten my second dose of the vaccine, and I feel kind of tired. One of my arms feels kind of numb. And so, sorry, I'm not going to tell you what happened last time, but yeah, sorry. And so, I hope you liked the video. And today, let's talk about what happens next. My arm. So, as everybody started going home after the training camp, Izuku was brought to the principal's office and was being scolded by Principal Nezu, saying things like this. So you're part of the Hasan Aisaba or something? Huh. So, kid, Izuku Midoriya, I'm really sorry, but can you explain why did you kill Muscular? As Izuku just says this. Isn't it obvious? I killed him because he was unnecessary. And he did try to kill all my classmates, so it was justified. As All Might says this. I mean, you're right, but still, it's still wrong. You're supposed to be a hero, not a murderous psychopath. As Izuku just says this. I'm sorry. Anyway, I shall be going. I'm currently busy right now. As he says this, being Nezu. Wait, Izuku. How about, how about I give you some extra credit? As Izuku just says this. Extra credit, eh? As he says this. Yes, extra credit. But for you to get that extra credit is a big deal. I want you to kill all for one. As everybody, like all of the teachers, get their eyes lit open. As not Bakugo, I meant, All Might says this. Principal Nezu, are you crazy? He's just a kid. As he says this. Quiet, All Might. Besides, he's from the Asanai Saba. I heard that they're powerful and learned magic, apparently. And their techniques are pretty much, legendary in assassination. Because I heard that they're the first assassination group in history. So, that is why I want Izuku to, assassinate all for one. Because his skills are perfect for that job. As Izuku just says this. Fine. But you had to pay me. As he says this. Okay, so, what is your payment? As Izuku just says this. Well, I want to become a hero. As he says this. Deal. And Izuku just says this. And, um, I want you to just let other people know that I don't want to hurt people, even though that I'm a former assassin. I want to protect people. Cool? As he says this. I'll make sure to tell everybody about that. And so, Izuku starts preparing another job. A job where he's gonna be fighting all for one. So, Izuku started packing all of his things. As Izuku started moving out, saying that Izuku is going to be going somewhere important. As his mother says goodbye. As Jiro comes out of, Izuku's, wait for a second. She comes into Izuku's room as she says this. Hey Izuku, what are you doing? As Izuku just says this. Oh, Jiro. As she says this. Why are you packing all these things? Are you going somewhere? As Izuku just says this. Yeah, another client has told me. He wants me to kill this guy. His name is, All for One or something. as she says this. Oh, I see. Sorry about that. As Izuku just says this. But don't worry, I will come back very soon. Maybe in like a few days. As she says this. Okay. And so Izuku started moving to go to that area, being the area where All for One is being, held, which is a remote island where several people are mostly staying, as Izuku started setting up a little camp area so he can, act as like a base of operations for his assassination. And so Izuku started creating, several different types of blades so he can assassinate not Bakugo, I meant all for One. As Izuku starts making a signature blade of his, this type of blade. Uh, the reason why I decided to, make this type of blade as one of the drawings is because this blade is the only thing that can assassinate people. Izuku made it out of the skin, not really skin, more like the fluids of a certain girl from the Asanai Saba, being the poison maidens. Which, if you don't know, the poison maidens are basically like women that have like. Let me explain. They're basically like poisonous dart frogs in human form. And if you don't know, I meant poisonous dart frogs are basically a type of frog that have poisonous skin. Just touching them would cause the poison to, absorb into your skin and cause you to die. That is what their literal, like, poison is. And Izuku coated it in Izuku's blades, or specifically, this type of blade. Just one stab, slash, or even just a graze of this, special poison would kill a normal man, making it a perfect weapon for him to kill All for One. And so, Izuku moves out, going to a area where All for One is held. And that held is a gigantic little, like a little, area. This little area is a little cabin. But Izuku knows that it's probably, a trick, and the actual cabin is just the entrance. And so Izuku goes in without anybody knowing that he's there. Because, assassins. And so Izuku goes into the cabin, which is furnished with several different types of foods, and actually looks pretty rustic, like the like the stereotypical like rustic home in media, media like America, where there's like the deer heads and the bearskin pelts and things like that. But Izuku sees something out of place. Izuku sees that the eye of the wolf seems to be misaligned, and so Izuku starts moving it, as it creates a gigantic, staircase, or at least that's what Izuku thinks. This staircase is actually not a staircase, but an elevator, and so Izuku goes in, as Izuku starts moving to the bottom floor. Izuku presses the last numbered button, which is number 10. As Izuku presses it, as they start moving to the bottom floor, Izuku decides to, use one of his, techniques that he learned in the Asanai Saba, which Izuku starts camouflaging, using a special paint. This special paint actually, kind of acts as a artificial version of what is her name? Hokagere's quirk. And if you don't know who's Hokagere, she's she's the invisible girl. And so after Izuku turns invisible, the servants of All for One started flooding in and decided to go inside of the, elevator. And when they got to the bottom floor, Izuku starts getting out of there as Izuku takes off the paint and starts moving out. hiding from the rest of these villains. As Izuku sees a little door. This door was completely wide open, as Izuku decides to go invisible again, using the paint, which, by the way, everybody doesn't notice this, as they see, or at least Izuku sees, the League of Villains, or at least some of the members, because, Izuku defeated them in the last video and brought them to Tartarus. The only members that were in, the League of Villains base are Shigaraki, All for One, and Konagiri. Shigaraki was pissed that they were defeated by just a young boy, as he says this, being All for One. Don't worry. After all, I just realized his name. Izuku Midoriya, said to be one of the finest assassins. As Shigaraki just says this. Assassins, eh? As he says this. Well, not really assassins. More like a mercenary. As, wait for a second. Konigiri says this. So, a mercenary then. So, do we just need to pay him? And as he says this. No, don't worry. I may be planning on threatening his parents, or at least his parent, on making his, or should I say, Izuku join us forcefully. As Shigaraki says this. Now this is interesting. Now, if we do actually manage to, capture him and force him into our service, what will you do after he finishes the job? As he says this. Well, he can do whatever the hell he wants. I don't really care about his quirk. His quirk is not really that impressive. After all, I did have a much more powerful quirk. As Izuku just watching in the shadows. As Izuku starts going up to All for One. As Izuku grabs the poison-coated knife and stabs him right at the back of his neck. After Izuku does that, it breaks his spinal cord, which causes him to go into a vegetative state. As when All for One does feel that, he says this. The hell? As well, both Shigaraki and Konigiri see this, as they start calling on to, many of the guards in the, All for One's base. Wait for a second. So, Izuku started escaping, but it seems that the area around them changed. As Izuku started moving, going into the opposite direction, as Izuku sees a large door. As Izuku opens it and sees several test tubes of people with several deformities. Some with arms that resemble animals, the others with their faces have been melted off, and others seem to be stitched. As Izuku just says this. The hell? As a person claps slowly, as he says this. Oh, it seems to be pretty interesting. A boy with the ability to turn invisible. As Izuku just says this. So I'm guessing you're the doctor, right? The doctor that's been making these Nomu things. As he says this. You're right. You can call me Doctor. Actually, I don't really care. Just call me the Doctor. I'm from Germany. Or at least, formerly a German. But I decided to join the League of Villains just because All for One is interesting. As Izuku just says this. So how can you see me? As he says this. Thanks to All for One. All for One gave me a few tricks, one of which allows me to see through anything, including people that have invisibility quirks. And you, kiddo, your quirk seems to be interesting. The ability to create any type of weapon that you desire, but only blades, knives, and
swords, and maybe others. Hmm, interesting, interesting. As Ezekiel just says this, I killed all for one. So you don't have any purpose here anymore. As he says this. Oh yes, I know that. And that is why I'm planning to blow this thing wide open. As Ezekiel just says this. Why? As he says this. Well, because of what was my, you know, purpose of living, or at least the purpose that made me live in this pathetic world. Because you killed them, I don't even care anymore. So, just leave it to my own devices. As Ezekiel starts leaving, as he says this. Interesting. This world is interesting as all hell. But unfortunately, I'll have to die. As he grabs a gun, as he smashes on a button, as it as the lights of the, All for One base started glowing, as it screams out, blaring in the, what do you call it? In the speakers, self-destruct sequence have been activated. Self-destruct sequence has been activated. The self-destruct sequence have been activated. As grabs the gun, as the doctor says this. Oh, oh hail hell. Oh hail heaven. Oh hail purgatory. I don't even care if I'm going to die. But my purpose has been completed. This world shall be shapen to its will. To the will of the gods and the hill. To the demons of hell. To the angels of God. And to the monsters of purgatory. No. As he shoots his head. As he dies. Many of the League of Villain members started escaping, but most of them get trampled on each other, and some committed suicide because they don't want to die in the most painful way. And so, Izuku escapes. As the island explodes, after Izuku defeats All for One, with an underhanded, technique, Izuku came back. Izuku goes to UA and tells them that his mission is over. As everybody's impressed that Izuku actually defeated All for One. As All Might says this. Huh, you actually defeated All for One. Heh, I should have given One for All to you. As Izuku just says this. Anyway, I'm gonna be leaving. I want to become a hero, so I can save the world. And show that everybody should, act a little bit, friendly towards me and my friends. And so, this is technically the end of this series. But before you leave, let's talk about the epilogue. So, in the epilogue, Izuku is now married to Jiro, but Izuku recently also was told by Momo that she's going to be marrying him. But because of the whole, Jiro marrying Izuku thing, they decide to, make a warrant. This warrant, or deal, that's where Izuku is going to be, having, Jiro on, maybe, 3 days, a week, and the other 4 a week. And so, Jiro has 4 days, while for, Momo, she has 3 days. And so, Izuku made love to both of them as they gained 2 children. One from Izuku and Momo, and the other was from Jiro and Izuku. The one from Jiro had a similar quirk to Izuku, but it also has the ability to create sounds. The other is basically similar to, Momo, but except with the ability to, create, anything, he can only create guns. which Izuku was weirded out as she says this. Maybe it's because you're able to create blades, so maybe it's a different way or a different version of it. As Izuku just says this, I guess. And so Izuku became the number one hero. As for Jiro, she became the number two, and finally for Momo, she became the number three. And so the world is now prosperous, without O for One. But many villain groups have been, rising, including some assassination groups started, reappearing. Like, for example, the Chinese assassination group, led by the great 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 grandson of the famous Chinese assassin by the name of like, for example, the great 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 grandson of Li Shuwen, and many others started appearing, including some others that proclaimed the sons and like the great great grandson of many historical heroes, and like, for example, the great 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 grandson of Heracles and the great 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 grandson of Medea. And so, let's just say this world is a bit different now. Izuku is now the leader of the Asans, and now leads a brand new hero organization known as the Asan Aisaba, now protecting the world from evil, no longer being bound to contracts and money, but instead protecting humanity because they want to. And so, this will be the end of this series. And so, I hope you liked the video. Comment, subscribe, and like the video so you can support my channel. And I hope to see you guys next time. Bye bye!